hilarious how stupid they think you are. Absolute muppets and mugs is the general view of Downing Street of the great British public. The contents of these leaks, the absolutely atrocious notion that one of the richest people on the planet could secure tax breaks in order to work on ventilators, which we discovered yesterday pretty much nobody with any knowledge or understanding of the issue thought would appear in time. A ludicrous attempt to put some sort of world-beating Brexit flavour ahead of moving heaven and earth to keep as many people alive as possible. Cue the statistics and the number of people that actually died as a result of government incompetence, prevarication and procrastination. And the efforts to persuade you that there's nothing to see here, that it's no big deal, have clearly not worked very well. I don't know who your go-to Tory supporter or client journalist is for the daily message of, oh no, absolutely nothing. Or Boris Johnson deserves 25% of your income in tithes and the sacrifice of your firstborns upon the altar of the Brexit that he embodies. Because to admit the moral corruption that runs through the heart of this government would be to admit that you got completely conned back in 2016, and nobody is ready to do that. Least of all the newspapers queuing up today to do Boris Johnson's bidding and try to put Dominic Cummings in the firing line rather than Boris Johnson and his absolutely appalling dealings, private shenanigans with Jimmy Dyson. And it hasn't worked, has it? Because if you had successfully signed up enough client journalists to insist to the great British public that, oh, there's nothing to see here, doesn't matter at all, not sleaze, not landing, no biggie, then you wouldn't have needed to call in favours from 3 prominent newspapers last night and ask them to move the focus away from the actual contents of the leak, the actual facts of the matter, the actual behaviour of the Prime Minister, and focus instead upon allegations that it was his former henchman Dominic Cummings who was responsible for issuing those leaks. But here's a funny thing. Come here a minute. It took me a while to work this out, right? If Dominic Cummings did leak this stuff, that means Dominic Cummings thinks that it matters. That means Dominic Cummings thinks that it's a big deal. That means Dominic Barnard Castle Cummings thinks that this should be and is deeply embarrassing and deeply troubling for the Prime Minister. Now, the people telling you that it doesn't matter, the people telling you to move along, nothing to see here, doff cap, tug forelock, vote, Rees-Mogg, the people telling you to look the other way, the people pointing at a dead cat, or several dead cats, quite literally, actually, in the case of one COVID story this morning. I don't know if you've seen that yet, but there is a cat who has died of or been put down because it was suffering from COVID. That's literally a dead cat. So if we were talking about that today, instead of the contents of the leaks, then we would have made the dead cat theory of distracting the public from the stuff that matters absolutely true and literal. But hey-ho, Dominic Cummings thinks it matters. The people telling you that it doesn't matter were telling you until relatively recently that Dominic Cummings was genius incarnate, that Dominic Cummings was so intrinsic to successful governance in this country that we had to let him lie to us about a trip to Barnard Castle on his wife's birthday, which apparently was undertaken, you'll remember, to test his eyesight. So either Dominic Cummings is a political genius, in which case these leaks are a very big deal, or, the architect of Brexit is a muppet. Yeah, I mean, you can take your pick on either position, but if you voted for it, or indeed for this government, then neither position paints you in a particularly happy light, does it? And of course, the incontrovertible evidence that they think you're stupid is in front of us today. Haven't quite pulled it off, chaps. I think people are still talking about it. People still think it matters. How can we shift the spotlight away from Johnson and put it on someone else? Well, why don't we put it on old Cummings? Make the story about who did the leak instead of what's in the leak.